Shona, you're not going to eat bunk.
Well, good evening and welcome to you. It is edition 2 of Cocktails and Conversation, brought to you by the Breeders' Cup. Wherever you are in the world in these challenging times, we hope you are well, we hope you are healthy, we hope you are staying home and staying safe. We're going to put a smile on your face through the next 60 minutes. Nick Luck from Teddington, London, England, alongside Keeping It Real, the man from the 21 Club, Mark Tubridy from Bushwick, yes. Brooklyn, and never really real in Brentwood, Los Angeles. How can you be?
Oh, Britney, come on now. Not like it's Hollywood.
How are you both? How are you both?
The show was very real.
You've chiseled,
doing well.
You've chiseled another 7 days off the quarantine block. How are we feeling?
Fast. I don't know how it goes by so fast when there's not actually that much to do. But the days bleed together and the minutes feel like an eternity. But you know, we get through. That's all we can do.
Britt, you're back in the game. You're back on the TV.
Back in the game. Yeah, it was a little rusty to begin things off, but really excited to be back with TVG, also NBCSN, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that was fun. And I feel like the week definitely went by faster with work involved. So it's nice to get back into that sort of routine. But I think maybe I was quarantining well. I was getting a little used to it. So now it's getting back into the work realm.
And that home studio is working nicely for you?
I like it. Yes. I mean, if I turned it around, you guys can see all the cameras and such. Let's see if I can do that here. Yeah.
Wow, that's production.
Nice little setup there. I got my notes underneath the camera in case I need one. Oh, boxes. Sorry. Getting a real tour of the home.
Yeah, just don't turn it the other way.
My dining room table if you turn this around, so I'm not going to bother.
I love the aesthetic of your house, Mark. Just from what I've seen.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful apartment in Bushwick. You guys can't see the exposed brick, but you can imagine it. So it's a cozy home, and I have to thank my wife for that. She made this truly a comfortable space to live in. So we're appreciating that every single second now that we're inside. But everyone's doing well. Yeah, my kids are doing their classwork from home. This is kind of their spring break, which is kind of a gray area because they're at home anyway. But they're getting reduced classwork, so they're taking it easy. My wife is doing conference calls every day, and I'm, trying to learn about making drinks.
Perfect. Well, Nick, what have you been up to? How's the last week been? Because I look forward to our Thursdays together.
I do now. It's an oasis now for me. This hour in the working desert. Though it was punctuated last week by the curio that is the virtual Grand National. A Grand National didn't exist. We did a virtual version. Mm-hmm. It raised £2.6 million for National Health Service charities, which
That's great.
At the moment is fantastic. Thanks to everyone who had a bet on the race, and thanks to the bookmakers for clubbing together and deciding their profits would go that way. And 5 million people saw this room that you're seeing right now, which is pretty curious, to say the very least.
How do you get through a virtual race like that? I mean, just give us some sort of insight as to how you yourself would have prepped for something like that.
Well, so we took the runners there. Our best guess are the runners there would have been from the last forfeit stage. So it would be like saying to you now, okay, do a virtual Kentucky Derby with the 18
top 20 horses right now. Okay.
who have the most points. So yeah, that would be the way you do it, and you just base it on that.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, yes, I did. Yeah.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
Nick strikes me as the type of guy to always have fun. He'll find it.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, we try. We absolutely try. We've got a special guest on this week's show, ladies and gentlemen, as well. A very special guest, someone known to all of you, loved by many, revered by anyone who's ever had anything to do with global horse racing. He is the one and only Money Mike Smith. Mikey, how are you doing?
Hey, Mike.
I'm doing great. I thought it was cocktails. It's called cocktails and conversation. So I had my cocktail already ready.
What do you got?
Right in. I have to still learn how to make Mark's recipe. So I stuck with the Chardonnay once again today. But we've already discussed one of these episodes. I'm going to grab all of the essentials, and which probably I already have in my house, which is helpful, and then make it along with you, Mark.
Absolutely.
Makers Mark whiskey sour here.
Good choice. Good choice, Mike. Now, did you make that yourself, or did you have some help?
My wife Cynthia made that. She's a
There you go.
Mark, so she's really
Excellent.
good.
Mark, is it always true that your cocktail tastes better if somebody else has made it for you?
I kind of feel like that might be the case, because I've had people at 21, where I work, the 21 Club, people will come up and say, I don't know why, but the Manhattans here, the martinis here just taste better. And, they've asked me the recipes and they bought the ingredients and they've made them at home, but they still insist that for whatever reason, when they come and they sit down at the 21 Club, it just tastes better. And, I can attest to that, because I was just mentioning to you guys that my wife makes an amazing Manhattan. And when I am at work, I make upwards of 30 to 40 Manhattans, during the shift. But when my wife makes a Manhattan for me, it's the best thing ever. So I think there is something to that. Maybe it's just the fact that
there's
like
some love.
It's the love. It's the gift that's coming to you. Yeah. So I do agree with that.
Well, Mike, how are you and your wife, Cynthia? How are you guys doing?
We're doing actually really well. Believe it or not, we've gotten through this pretty good. We have our little routine that we do. We usually get up in the morning, go for a run, and then we have a little lunch, and then we wait a couple hours and we go on a nice bike ride, and then get back home again, and then just watch TV constantly. A whole lot of TV.
Mike, am I right in thinking that with the current restrictions, you can't go to work? You can't go and even ride any track work?
No track work at all. Matter of fact, the only time we've actually left the house is either to go to the grocery store or to go on our run or our bike ride, and that's pretty much it right now. We can't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
So you're somebody that fitness is a priority all the time, whether you're riding on vacation, whatever it is. So how are you filling the time workout wise though? How are you keeping yourself fit when racing does come back?
So, what's crazy is you would probably think that I would have lost fitness during these times, but I would say stamina wise, I probably double what I normally do. We go on a good 10K run. After that, we do about 15 miles of a bike ride. And that's usually our day, and that burns a whole lot of calories. I've found myself keeping my weight pretty good. It definitely has gotten a little bit heavier, but not bad. But man, our hills, we live in Camaraderie, which is right on the foothills of Santa Anita, and they're brutal. I mean, when you're on a bike, man, they'll kill you. So I mean, it's actually been pretty fun for both of us.
And Mike, that probably helps burn the time too, right? So if you're finding a hard time spending the hours and passing them, doing a nice run or a bike ride, helps to pass things.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's been raining here quite a bit, but I just put on extra clothing and we go in the rain. Rain, shining, whatever it is, we go.
Awesome.
Mike, I've seen you running around the track with a trash bag on. So is that part of the attire as well now that you're biking in the rain?
not with the bike, but yeah, I mean, I got plenty of layers of clothing. I put a little morning, we call it mud gear that we have. Rain, it's kind of waterproof rain jacket, and just take off on the bike.
I see somebody here is already asking Mike. I don't know whether this is a homage to the Trump press conference yesterday. Somebody slipped in the question, what did Mike think of Tiger King? So it's now obligatory in any conversation, however irrelevant it is, that you ask somebody what they thought of Tiger King.
We watched Tiger King, and it's interesting. I mean, you can't help but root for the guy there for a little bit, man. He's different, but man, he sometimes.
I mean, can you imagine how often that is coming up? Almost everybody knows what Tiger King is, and if you haven't, you're possibly living under a rock. It's become the biggest internet, I guess you could say, Netflix sensation that we've seen in some time. It's surprising when you haven't heard of it or speak to somebody that hasn't. I hear they're coming out with a new episode.
We're watching it right now. We're in the middle. I've got to about episode 4, and a friend of mine, poor thing, she and her other half must have been not getting on well that evening, because she sent me a text saying, my husband, she's about to give birth as well. I'll spare her blushes. My husband says I'm a dead ringer for Carol Baskin right now. That's not something you want to hear, is it?
Crazy right now.
That's not something you want to hear.
No, not at all. It's kind of crazy to think too that when they were producing, that documentary, and even when they were planning to air it, there's no way for them to have known that everybody would be at home right now looking for something to watch, and it just
the timing,
kind of crazy. Yeah, there's no way to predict it.
Perhaps maybe it's just part of the 5G conspiracy theory. Who knows?
Heard a little bit about that. Yep.
It all seems to fall into place no matter what.
Mark, you're gonna kick us off with your first cocktail of the evening in just a few moments' time. But before you do, we must remind you, if you weren't with us last week, that we are trying to raise money as well through this series, and you can help us raise money for racing's backstretch workers and other industry stakeholders that are most in need during this COVID-19 crisis. breederscup.com/donate. This is touching everyone in the world, wherever you are, rich or poor, in whichever country you happen to be. But it clearly is going to affect some people more than others, and it behoves all of us as an industry to get behind those people who need it the most. So breederscup.com/donate to try and help us out, Britt.
Yeah, and as you said, there's no donation that is too small. And I know, Mike, you can attest to this, spending plenty of time around those men and women on the backstretch that take care of these horses day in and day out. It's a scary time for many people right now, but especially without our economic engine, which is racing. So anything that we can do to support those men and women is huge.
Well, I'll start out by my wife over there already saying, here's 1,000 from her. So you got 1,000 coming from us.
That's amazing. Cynthia,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cynthia, that is tremendous. What a way to kick off! What a way to kick off the show. That'll buy anybody a few Makers Mark Mint Juleps as well, Mark, won't it?
Absolutely, I think so.
Another one. So
depending on where you are or
Hey.
what time of year, maybe just one. But
That's awesome. Cheers to that donation.
Cheers
but now
to
I'm
that,
excited
guys.
to hear how we make a delicious mint julep.
Absolutely. Well, guys, juleps in general, as a family of drinks, has been around for centuries. And while the mint julep itself was more popular originally with brandy or rum, these days we can't help but associate it with a great quality Kentucky bourbon like Maker's Mark. Now, of course, the mint julep has been associated with horse racing since 1938, but it's such an easy drink to make and so delicious that really we should be enjoying it more than just once a year, especially as the warm months come up. So guys, for a proper mint julep, we're going to need some mint leaves. I'm going to try to bring things up to the camera for you, which we've picked off the stem. We'll need some mint sprigs for garnish. All right, the nice floral tops. We will need some simple syrup. So we spoke about this last week. This is a simple solution of equal parts sugar and water. And this is a great ingredient to have around your house for your home cocktail. Now, of course, we're going to need Maker's Mark bourbon. And we are going to require something to muddle with. So I've got a muddler here. You may not be able to see it too well. I'll try to get it around the white backdrop. But if you don't have that, you can easily use a wooden spoon. We'll need something to stir with, so a nice bar spoon here, and crushed ice. I'm going to grab my crushed ice real fast. I apologize. But this is best when it's super cold, so I really didn't want it to be sitting out here. Now, guys, if you don't have a crushed ice maker on your refrigerator at home, you can easily create this by putting regular ice cubes into a blender and just pulsing it on high for a couple seconds. That's going to crush it down nicely. Or you can put those ice cubes into a clean dish rag, close up the ends, and hit it with a heavy kitchen tool like a rolling pin or a meat tenderizer. So don't feel intimidated by the crushed ice. It's definitely doable at home. All right. The last
I like that
thing
you're
is
giving us all these hacks because there's certain things that I don't have. It's really helpful.
That's the thing is that so often with, I say mixology, but just making great drinks, people get intimidated by the simple things. They'll look at a ingredient list and say, I don't have that, or I don't know where to get that. And so often it's a lot easier than people think. So I'm just trying to, help you out with those little hacks, like Britney said, to make it doable for you in your house. Now, finally, as far as what we want to serve this drink in, it's absolutely great if you have one of these signature julep cups, like a pewter version. This is going to keep the drink nice and frosty cold from the beginning to the end. But if you don't happen to have it, do not worry. Just go with a nice size rocks glass and you'll be fine.
So you want that metal, that pewter cup, Mark, so your fingers almost stick to it. You want it that cold.
Yes. And there's a trick to that. There's a whole ritual in how you actually hold the julep cup. You either want to hold it from the very top or from the very bottom. And the reason for that is you do want to, maybe to avoid the sticking, but you want this to maintain this really frosty outside, which is just visually, it's so appealing. But you also know that the mint julep inside is just as cold as can be.
Mark, is that the same thought as to, wine glasses with the stem? You never want to hold it around here because obviously you're going to make it a lot warmer. So the whole thought is to hold it down here. Just really keeping it crisp, cold, cool, and delicious.
Absolutely. And when you think about this, what's that, Mike?
I say a straw, man.
Yeah. The thing with glassware is the design of it sometimes we forget that there's a reason why it's designed the way that it is. So you're absolutely right, Brittany. That's a great observation. Even in a martini glass or a coupe glass. So if you're drinking your dirty martinis, like you said, it has that same stem because that drink is not served on ice, right? So it has nothing that's going to keep it cold. So you really want to make sure that your body heat is not heating up the drink afterwards. I'm looking at this question. I'm drinking my Maker's Mark signed by Mike Smith. Look at that. That's a great comment right there. So guys, let's go ahead and start making our proper mint julep. We're going to start by adding about 5 or 6 mint leaves directly into our julep cup. And we're going to add a ½ ounce of simple syrup directly into that julep cup. Now this is important. We're going to go ahead and muddle the mint into the syrup. Now I want to hold this up so that you see the way that I'm doing this. We're going to do a gentle muddle here. We are not pulverizing the mint, right? That's going to, you do not want to do like Hulk smash from the Avengers. We just want to do a light, gentle muddle. That way we release all of the essential oils from the mint leaves, but we're not getting any of the bitterness inside of the leaf. Okay? Now we're going to add 2 ounces of Maker's Mark.
Graphics team on point again today. Gentle muddle.
Gentle muddle. It's, you know, it's very important. So the reason for that, I'm going to get a little
it's gentle muddle. Storming clear. It's going to be the next one, isn't it?
I like that. That's perfect. So the reason for that, guys, is that inside of mint leaves and really most plants, you have chlorophyll, which is what helps in photosynthesis. But chlorophyll actually is bitter to the taste, which is, you know, basically so that predators don't eat the leaves. It's kind of this natural defense. So if we break up those mint leaves too much, we release too much of that chlorophyll, and then that's going to add that bitter taste to the cocktail that we don't want, hence the gentle muddling. But I love the name of the horse. I think we got to stick with that, Nick. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
See if it's eligible and put Mike on her. Or him.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we've added all of our ingredients to our julep cup. We're going to put our first scoop of crushed ice in here. All right. A little bit more. Now, guys, at this point, what I like to do is use our mixing spoon to incorporate those ingredients and kind of start the chilling process on the outside of the glass. So what I'm going to do, I hope you can see it, is kind of move that stirring spoon between my palms, back and forth. Exactly. And that's kind of like a swizzling motion. That's used in a lot of tropical drinks that call for crushed ice, called swizzle. And that really helps to develop that frost on the outside of the glass. So I think it's appropriate in this case as well. So now, of course, we want that beautiful mound on top of the julep cup. So I'm going to keep on adding crushed ice until we have a beautiful dome on top. And you're going to see what it looks like in a second. I apologize that you can't see it right now.
Kind of like a snow cone.
Exactly. So this is what we're ending up with here. All right. Okay.
Love it.
Okay. And now we're going to add our mint sprig for garnish. Now with this, we're going to lightly tap it against our hand. And what that's going to do is release some of those aromatic oils so that when you lean down for your first sip off the julep, the first thing that your nose is going to get is that beautiful aroma of mint. We're going to stick that inside and put a straw in here. I just want to quickly thank Maker's Mark for their work with the Lee initiative to, you know, reach out to restaurant workers, supply them with essentials and food in their homes. They're really doing a lot to give back to the hospitality industry during this difficult time. So guys, cheers to you. That is a proper mint julep with Maker's Mark.
I love it. Cheers. That is a proper mint julep.
Serious bit of sprig.
Yes,
serious
absolutely.
bit of sprig.
I know we've got a question for Mike, but Mike, after you've won the Kentucky Derby, do you allow yourself a mint julep?
Afterwards, certainly. If you're blessed enough to have it. The great thing about it is if you won or you lost, you want one because you want to celebrate, or you want one because you're feeling sorry for yourself. Either way, you're going to have one.
Mike, are you consoling yourself at the moment, if you like? Well, first that your family, everyone is healthy and well, but are you consoling yourself in the idea that you're going to get back in the fall to good horses again?
I'm certainly praying so. I'm a praying man, and I've been praying about it every day. I'm blessed. To be honest with you, Nick. I'm towards the end of my career, but I certainly want this game to go on for hundreds of years for all the younger riders and the people that this is an incredible sport, man. I mean, it brings joy and happiness in so many different ways to so many different people, and you just it's crazy to even think about it not being around. Matter of fact, I'll get teary-eyed if I start talking about that. But
Wow.
to be honest with you, I mean, I'm just praying that we get back on our feet, and I truly believe we will. Racetrack family and the racetrack has always been a very, very strong organization, man. We've always somehow, some way, we've always seemed to step it up, and then even for some way, it even gets higher and better. And I truly believe that we're going to come out of this, man, smelling like a rose. Speaking of rose, man, the Kentucky Derby's coming up.
First Saturday in September. No, just to follow up on that, what you're talking about, Mikey. I don't think too many people realize how strong this racing family is, and it truly is a family. We've seen down in San Luis Rey when those fires swept out so many horses and barns, and how the people came together to support those that had lost anything. For you, and speaking with your colleagues, whether it be jockeys or trainers, how is everybody handling it, and how do you kind of see the racing community coming together during this time?
Well, it's different than, of course, in every state. Everything's a little bit different. There's still some racing going on in some states. You have Oakland going on, Gulfstream, racetrack in Texas, and there's 2 others, I believe, that are still going on. So, man, I mean, it's just so fun to watch racing all over again. I can't wait to see, Oakland and Gulfstream and all these other tracks. I'm learning about new riders now that I've never gotten the opportunity to see before, at Fauner Park, in Nebraska and stuff like that. So that's all been kind of interesting for me to kind of watch and to see. And then we've been on these board meetings with the Jockeys Guild, with Johnny Velasquez and Castellano and Terry Meeks, the guy who runs our organization, and just trying to figure out how to keep things afloat, man, keep our employees that we still have with a job and all kinds of different stuff, man. It's pretty crazy. I've literally been on a conference call almost every single day since this has happened for at least an hour or 2, but. We're figuring it out. We're coming together. We're gonna get through this. It's just a matter of a little bit more time, but we're gonna get through this.
Yeah, well said.
Positive.
Well said, Mike. Echo all those sentiments. And it always strikes me whenever I come to your part of the world how close knit the community is. And people would imagine here that maybe we're tighter because it's a smaller country and we all see each other all the time. But actually, that sense of the traveling circus almost is even more intense, I think, in the States than it is in most European countries, and how much time you spend with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly do. We spend a lot of time together, especially when we're riding. The only rider that we've had here in the United States, I think that's come down with the coronavirus is Javier Castellano, man, and we were extremely worried about him. We talked to him on the phone, still do. He's doing great. He's doing wonderful.
Great.
I actually felt any symptoms, to be honest with you, and he's doing really good right now. But again, we're just all trying to figure things out and stick together and get through this thing and get racing back going again, because we certainly need it.
Yeah, likewise here. And Britney, it's probably just worth giving everybody an update on what's happening this side of the pond this week.
Absolutely. A lot of announcements this week in regards to my favorite week spent with you.
Which
Scott,
we're likelihood is we probably won't be spending the week together this year, sadly, but they're preparing that they can run the fixture behind closed doors if racing behind closed doors is going again by the middle of June. But there's so many ifs that you couldn't put your hand on your heart and be confident it'll happen. But they have to go forward with a plan in case that plan becomes a viable one. But it won't be Royal Ascot with a Royal Procession. It won't be Royal Ascot with any spectators. And all our classics, the 1,000 Guineas, the 2,000 Guineas, the Derby, the Oaks, they've all been shunted down the road. So they've all been, the intention is they'll be run, but they have all been indefinitely postponed for the time being from their May and June slots, because there's simply no time to get the prep races going.
Nick, I think it might be interesting for those listening, and the biggest difference between, say, UK racing or racing overseas versus here, and why certain tracks can continue here. I think a lot of that has to do with training and where horses are stabled. So can you expand on that? Yeah,
and of course it's really important to tell people, because there's an awful lot of mudslinging going on in unfortunate circumstances because people think that sports shouldn't be taking place of any description anywhere. Well, if you can effectively and efficiently quarantine an area, then you can maintain social distancing protocols while doing that. Now, there's no way you could do that in the UK at the moment. And there's no sign at the moment that we're flattening the curve. But as and when the curve is flattening and restrictions start being lifted, then you have to be in a position to sort of ease your way back in. But we can't simply just turn it back on the way we did before, where horses are shipping to and from different tracks every day and everybody's traveling and it's a different bunch of people at a different track each day of the week. We would have to then, I think, run something more on an American model, whereby we have a track run for a few days, maybe one of the synthetic tracks, and quarantine people in that area and try and run a ton of races and clear the backlog. I think that would probably be the way to kick it off before we really got into the action proper. But there's so much supposition and hearsay at the moment. You don't really know where you are. You just got to hope that you keep yourselves and your family healthy for the time being, I think.
No, absolutely. Rightly said. We would be remiss to not be talking about the incredible mare on the photo behind you, and of course the Breeders' Cup, as this is Breeders' Cup Cocktails and Conversations. He's like, who's behind me? Huh? I know we've had plenty of questions.
You got over there.
Somebody was asking, was Zenyatta your favorite horse to ride? I know you've ridden so many greats and been asked this a million times, but there's something really special as somebody that watched her run. I mean, for you, what was it like to be a part of that journey with her?
Well, it's hard to describe, unless you were blessed enough to have seen it or to been around it, you truly wouldn't understand. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you about some of her antics and some of the things that she did, and how special it was to be the guy that was blessed enough to sit on her back 16 of the 19 times. David Flores was blessed enough to ride her the first 3 times, but she was just different, man. I mean, she was just she was the we're here in California, so if you want to go entertainer of the year, man, she would have won it every year that she was in racing, because it wasn't just about the way she ran and the way she came from last and how she always just got up to win, by rather be a nose. It never was by a very large margin, but she just always seemed to do just what she needed to do. But it was everything leading up to it. If you got a chance to walk down to the saddling area, to the paddock where they were saddling her, I mean, it was a show. I mean, that was my favorite part. I would literally come out of the jocks room about 5 minutes to 10 minutes earlier just to watch what she was doing to the competition. By the time that they saddled her, she'd already melted everybody. I mean, that's how powerful she was. She would stand up and snort and dance, and I mean, even the horses were all they wilted just looking at her. It was like it was over before we even went out. And if that could be true, it was true. I mean, it really happened. I seen her beat the horses before she even had to run.
Wow! And
that's the only horse that I've ever really seen do that. And I can honestly say that it was crazy. Even in the post parade, we would stand there when she won the Breeders' Cup Classic against the boys. I remember going a mile and a quarter before you turn back up to go into the chute. She stood up. I mean, she did this dance. I mean, it was like she was on fire, man. It was like, bring it on, man. She wanted every bit of part of it. Not that she knew that she was racing against the boys, but that's how good they had her, and that's how excited she was, and that's how excited it made me. And I just basically stayed out of her way most of the time and let her do her thing. And she was just incredible. But you had to have witnessed it to truly understand it. Because I could tell you these stories, through my words on and on and on. And it might bring some light to it. But unless you saw it, you wouldn't believe it.
It was, I think the quote goes, now you may have told me this, that it was the only time the ground shook in California without an earthquake.
After the race was over.
Yeah, when she won.
I feel the ground shaking on the other side of the racetrack because the grandstand was going bananas, man. I mean, they were going.
Wow.
And I let her back. And I remember people thought that it was my idea to lead her all the way to the end of the grandstand, the other way towards the very end. But it wasn't me. It was John Sheriff's going, take her, go, show everybody. I want everybody to see her from the very end of the grandstand all the way back to the other end. And so I did it. Because John was coaching me, so I took her all the way to the very end. I mean, it would go crazy as I'd go all the way to the end, all the way back. And to this day, I've had trainers and owners and people tell me, even people that had a horse in the race, tell me how it brought them to tears. You know, it was
Wow.
pretty crazy.
Once in a lifetime, I'm sure. Nick, we've had so many fan questions come in that we've kind of missed. So we have one coming up, I think, in regards to Breeders' Cup, but not Zenyatta Breeders' Cup. Another one that perhaps didn't necessarily fare your way that people still argue about. I believe this is from Breeders' Cup ambassador Bobby Flay. He had a question.
Oh, the Breeders' Cup diss-off between Songbird and Beholder was the most exciting race I've ever seen. Did you think she'd won at the wire? Did you think you'd won at the wire on Songbird? I've watched it 10 times. I still think you won.
Well, we hit the wire. I remember hitting the wire, and immediately Gary celebrated first.
But did you think he was right?
He's hardly ever wrong in my eyes, but that kind of worried me just for a moment there. But I still kind of sneakily thought I won. And I thought, man, my poor brother, man, he's celebrating I won, you know. And we stood up, and he says, man, you don't know how bad I needed this. And I said, well, if you won, you don't know how bad I am. Happy for you. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe I got this, brother. I'm not too sure. And we're galloping on out, and I'm still thinking, I'm pretty positively thinking that I think I held on, you know. And we start coming back, you know, after pulling up and start coming back. And he was ahead of me. And I saw him celebrate again, so I knew the numbers had come up, and I thought, oh, God, did he get the nod on me? There's no way. I always thought he had a little longer nose than I did. But anyway, so he must have just nailed me right on the wire. But that was a race for some odd reason, guys, that I even though that I lost, I didn't lose. I didn't feel she lost in any way. I thought that it should have just been a dead heat pretty much. I mean, because, you know, I still felt, even though I was disappointed that, of course, that, you know, we didn't take the win picture and do all the celebration stuff. I walked away very, very proud of her. And of course, you know, I get to see my brother at his age and my age do what he just did was just incredible what Gary did. And for her to win, it'll go down as probably one of the greatest, you know, Breeders' Cup races of all time.
Wow.
Hands down. Nick, you were there that day, right?
Yeah.
Covering it? I was just watching as a fan.
It's funny, isn't it? Because maybe it's because it was on the Friday, wasn't it? That we didn't, perhaps at the time, we knew it was a great horse race, but I think in terms of Breeders' Cup folklore, it's passed into that a little bit more slowly than it might have done had it been on Saturday that year. But now everyone remembers that whole event as being a great Breeders' Cup, because the following day we had you on Arrogate beating Chrome in another wonderful horse race, and it was a special couple of days, really special couple of days. It's
2016 at Santa Anita.
Yeah, given what Mike was saying about Songbird and how she'd kind of enhanced her reputation in defeat, almost a bit like Zenyatta did however many years before, that Gary has been saying quite a lot in recent interviews that Beholder is hands down the best horse he rode.
Well, a lot of times, and look, this is just me speaking, just for me speaking, and not putting in his words, but she was the closest to him, so he's going to stick up for her no matter what, who, when, where that comes around. Gary's that way. When he loves you, let me tell you, somebody, he'll fight to the end for you. And I truly believe that she meant that much to him. And she might have been the best horse he ever rode, and she might not have been. He has been so blessed to have ridden so many great horses. I mean, I'd run out of time to list them all. And then I'm sure at one time he felt that way about them. But at the very end of someone's career, and, you know, it gets a little bit emotional when you're getting towards the end. And what she did for him at the very end was just, he'll go down fighting that she's the best he ever rode by far.
Well, we'll all drink to that.
I can't help but drink to that.
On which note, Mark Tubridy? See what I did there. Actually, before we
to the Southside.
He's having to listen to us just reminisce.
Before we make the Southside, Mark, I just got a lovely message here from Bob T saying, Woody Stevens was once asked how to make a mint julep. He replied, fill a glass with good bourbon, throw a mint leaf on the top, take the mint leaf out and throw it on the ground and drink the bourbon.
I love recipes like that. There are plenty of those in regards to the martini as well. And kind of, getting rid of the non-necessary ingredients, but you can never go wrong with straight bourbon. But you guys will see that at this point, I've got that beautiful frost going on that julep cup.
Wow.
So another reason to invest in those if you can. But yeah, we're going to make some Southsides. Now, the Southside cocktail, like many Prohibition era drinks, comes with its, fair share of speculation as to where it comes from and how it was created, and sometimes even what exactly goes into it, right? So the Southside was, rumored to have been created in the South Side of Chicago during the gang wars of Prohibition. But there's another theory that says it was created at the very 21 Club where I work. And we do know, so that, the Chicago story is very exciting. And we do know that the drink was popularized and made famous at the 21 Club. But even still, a lot of people think that it was actually invented at the Southside Sportsman's Club on Long Island, where they were rumored to actually make a great mint julep. And then they experimented with mint and other drinks and eventually came up with the Southside. So those are the three main theories there. Wherever it actually originated, it's a delicious drink, super refreshing. And classically, it's made with gin, but today we're going to make it with vodka. So some similarities here to the mint julep. We are going to need our fresh mint leaves. So if you've already stocked that for the mint julep, you're good to go. We'll need our mint sprigs, simple syrup, again. So this kind of shows you how sometimes there's an overlapping of ingredients in cocktails. So if you have some of those basics already stocked, you can make a wide variety of different drinks. Now, the next ingredient we're going to need is lemon juice. I don't know if you can see that. It's inside that picture. Now,
don't pour it out.
Here's the thing. If you look up the recipe of the Southside online, a lot of recipes will list lime juice. And even amongst the bartender community, a lot of people are split on that. But that's the case in a lot of drinks. But I'll tell you that in all the time I've been at the 21 Club, it's always been lemon juice. That's good enough for me, so I'm going to stick with that. And we are going to use Tito's handmade vodka here. All right, so somewhat similar preparations that we're starting with. Absolutely. So now we're going to take, again, about 5 or 6 mint leaves and put that directly into our mixing tin. This time we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. All right. And now, again, we're going to do a gentle muddle. Again, that's our horse of the day, gentle muddle, coming around the corner here. All right. Very lightly.
I feel like gentle muddle is it's kind of like a grinder, that just keeps coming at you.
That's what it is. Somewhere like right at the finish, you'll come in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So now we've added our sweetness. Now we want to balance that out with some citrus. So we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of our lemon juice. All right. Now, again, as we spoke last week, we always want to make sure that our citrus juices are nice and fresh, nothing oxidized that's been sitting along, for a long time. So fresh is always better with citrus juices. And we're going to add 2 ounces of Tito's handmade vodka from Austin, Texas. Now, guys, what you're
great.
Yeah. Now, what you're seeing here is a classic bartending ratio. 2 parts spirit to 3/4 part sweetness and 3/4 part something sour or acidic. So that's a basic ratio. Now, Mike, the whiskey sour that you're drinking, you'd have to check with your wife. I'm not sure what she did, but a classic whiskey sour ratio would be that same thing. 2 parts spirit to 3/4 part sugar, 3/4 part something sour. So that's a great thing to know. You can use it for the whiskey sour. You can do a fresh gin gimlet with that, or here you see that it's the basis of our Southside cocktail. So as with any other, sort of profession or art, there are some common rules. That's a great ratio to remember. Okay, now at this point, we're going to go ahead and add some ice to our cocktail shaker. Are you done with that whiskey sour yet, Mike? How you doing?
Oh, I'm going on my second one. She's mandarin orange, I think, and lemon and whatever.
Yeah. If I could somehow make one here for you and pass it over, I would love to do that. That was some, great inspiring words that you had there and some amazing stories that you told. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and shake this up.
We agree, Jody.
Yes. Tito's is awesome. We're going to talk about how awesome Tito's is in just a second. Guys, we're going to use a technique called fine straining. So we're going to not only strain from our cocktail shaker, we're actually going to strain through this fine strainer here. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove any little particles of mint that was broken up while we were shaking. And in the case that you're doing a drink like this and you're serving it straight up, so without ice, it also removes little ice particles that would further dilute your drink once you've strained it. So this is a great sort of technique. This is fine straining. So that's
Are there
going into
certain
our
drinks,
highball glass.
Mark, that should be drank on the rocks versus straight up? I mean, is it just preference?
You know, that's a good question, because even drinks like, I love Manhattans, and you know, you love martinis. The main thing is that if you put it on the rocks, there is some dilution that's going to continue to happen over the course of the time that you drink it. It will keep it colder longer, but it kind of is a matter of preference. As far as for me, once I have my Manhattan, I like it the strength that it is the whole time that I'm drinking it. Even if it warms up a little bit, I'm okay with that. But for a lot of people,
the truth of it is, Mark, we just need to drink quicker.
Yeah, there you go. but that's what it comes down to. And you know, I've seen people sometimes, if they've had maybe 2 Manhattans and they really want a third one, they might switch to one on the rocks for that very reason. The fact that you're going to get a little bit of dilution in there, and it's not going to be quite as strong at the end of the day as the one that's served straight up. I've never seen Nick and Britney look more focused in my life. All right, awesome.
You know, it's cocktail making. I'm interested.
Exactly. When something's infusing you that much. Oh, look at this.
Hi, Bella.
Oh, all right. I should just stop right here, because I can't beat that. I'm gonna drop the mint. I'm out of here.
I want to foster a dog.
So
she's
cute.
the
So cute. All right, guys. So now we're gonna, in the same way that we did for mint julep, kind of slap the mint just so that we release those oils. Again, that's very important. We taste with our taste buds, but also with our nose. So it's great to get that.
Is slap the mint a half brother to gentle muddle?
Yeah. It's a 1-2 finish. I love where we're going with this.
We do. We're gonna have so many new horse names by the end of this.
Yeah, I feel like we are going to see one of these pop up in the Breeders' Cup, within the next couple of years. Give it a little time to, kind of work its way through the community. But
hey, any horse owners out there, we're giving you free names.
Yes, there you go. So we've got our Southside looking beautiful here. I do want to toast to Tito's, because Tito's in recent weeks, they've taken a huge step to assist, this fight against COVID-19. They basically repurposed and kind of overhauled their production facilities so that they're using the byproducts from their distillation to turn into hand sanitizer. Thousands of gallons of which they're sending out to cities throughout the United States that really need it the most. And to make this happen in such a tight time frame is an incredible feat. And there are a lot of people that have worked extra hours to make that happen. So cheers to you, Tito's. Thank you. We know you put a lot of love and care into what you put in the bottle. Thank you for putting just as much love outside of the bottle for us. Cheers, guys.
Here's to all our friends at Tito's and great supporters of the Breeders' Cup for many years, and wonderful work you're doing.
Mike's waiting for his next one.
So that's it. There we have it. Mark, I think you're leaving us, sadly.
No.
Sadly, guys, but this was honestly, I'm looking forward to this now every week. So, I'll be here whenever you ask me to. It's such a pleasure talking with you. And Mike, it's such a pleasure, meeting you and hearing those incredible insights. You've lived 1,000 lives, I think, in that career. But God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing, bud.
God bless you.
Nick, Brittany.
Thank you.
Top man.
Absolutely, guys.
Thank you so much, Mark. We should figure out by the end of this episode, or discuss with him after, kind of what next week is going to be, and maybe do a follow along. Have people join in if they want to make it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I'll leave you to that right after this episode, because I've got to go to bed. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah,
11:45 for you.
It's cocktails and conversation. Nice civilized hour where you two are. It's sort of all night speakeasy territory here. It's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. Mikey, you're going down a storm, obviously, with everybody watching. Judy Lyon says, "Hey, Mike, you are and always have been the best." Lon Garfield Jr. Mike, how do you think Justify would have competed against American Pharaoh's Field?
Oh,
well, that's a great question. Man, it'd be tough to say. Really tough to. Well, I didn't.
So what is Derby Field? Because you had Firing Line, who really gave it everything he had in the Kentucky Derby.
And then remember too, I rode Justify, so of course I'm going to be biased. I'm always going to be biased. People didn't get to see. Honestly, I truly believe this. You didn't get to see how good Justify truly could have been. I mean, he broke the Apollo curse. I mean, he only raced 6 times, only trained for 100 and so many days. Can you imagine if we would have got to see that horse as a 4-year-old? I mean, he was a beast. He loved what he did. He's the kind of horse that wasn't going the wrong way. He was going up and up and up, and just had to retire because he was worth so much money. But I mean, can you imagine what this horse could have done as a 4 and 5-year-old?
Well, it was just asked before Trainer Graham Motions. What was his personality like? Before we get to the Jeff Ruby's menu.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very interesting. I'll tell you why, because he was a mean horse on the ground. I mean, if you got next to him, man, on the ground, I mean, you better have a carrot. And you had about 2 seconds to give him that carrot and get out of the way. But when you were on top of him, he was totally the opposite. I mean, you could love him all you wanted to love him, and he loved you loving him because he knew that was his job. I mean, he liked being there, but in his own time, in his own private time, he wanted to be private. He wanted to be left alone. He didn't want to be messed with. But as soon as they started putting the saddle on him and you got on top of him, he was the most loving horse I ever been on.
What do you think his best race was? Sorry, Nick.
Wow, his best race?
Mm-hmm.
There's my wife. Honestly,
Nathan.
I think there were 2 races that were his best race. I think the very first time that he ran, and when Drayden rode him, I think was one of his best races. And I think that when he won the Kentucky Derby was one of his best races in such a short amount of time. I mean, he ran 2 races that were sick, man. I mean, his maiden race was unbelievable. And then to come back and do what he had to do to get to the Kentucky Derby, and then to win it, going as fast as he had to go and all that stuff was crazy. The Preakness was a whole different kind of race. I mean, that's a whole other story that I could tell you about. But at that point, I just wanted to get the job done because I knew that if I could win that race, I honestly believed he would win the Triple Crown.
It was such just from a personal standpoint, being there, covering, that was my first NBC Triple Crown, and to be in the stands watching, you go for glory, and everybody, it felt in this instance, when American Pharoah was up for the Triple Crown, everybody was really rooting the horse in the moment. It felt, and I'm not sure if Mike, that really ever sunk in, but when you were going for the Triple Crown, it felt that everybody was rooting for you because of what you've done for this sport, what you have achieved. And it was, one thing on your resume that you so deserved that hadn't gotten. It truly felt when you won that day that everyone was like, hats off to Mike Smith. It was really special.
Well, thank you for that. But it would take a horse like Justify to make that happen. I mean, he was a beast. I mean, he was again, I can't stop praising him and talking about it. For as young as he was so oversized. He would be like a Shaquille O'Neal that had the athleticism of a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan. He was. He was what did I call him there at the very end? I mean, there's so many athletes that I like to compare him with because he was just that good. I mean, he was LeBron James, I told him, and he was crazy. He was just that good. I was blessed to be a part of it. Proud to be a part of, Bob Baffert. I remember he told me after he won the Breeders' Cup with American Pharoah, we'd come back. He'd come back to California. We're all standing around one night talking, and I forget what place it was at, but he says, hey, he goes, I believe I can do this again. And the next time I do it, it's going to be with you.
Wow.
You deserve this. And I remember him saying that. And then, man, I was like, thank you, Bob. Yeah, whatever. You never truly think that's going to happen. I mean, for that, in that short amount of time, as soon as Justify came around, as soon as I got the opportunity to ride him, I knew it was going to happen. I mean, to me, the whole time, it was a no-brainer. And there's only been very few times that I've ever thought that a race to be won was a no-brainer, and he was definitely one of them. He was one of them. Zenyatta was one of them. Almost every time she ran, and there was one other horse called Holy Bull that I always thought they would win no matter what.
You mentioned Holy Bull going right back. There's a question about another great you rode in that era. Question for Mike: where do you rank Lure amongst the great horses you rode? Dual Breeders' Cup Mile winner, of course.
Probably the best grass horse I ever rode in my life. And saying that, I mean, I truly believe that he was So he set a track record his first time out, going 5/8 of a mile on the dirt with Jerry Bailey on his back. After that, he ran on the dirt a few more times and won some tremendous races on the dirt, and then got hurt on the dirt. Didn't run back very well on the dirt. Shug decided to switch him to grass. And when we were in Saratoga, it was I forget what the year it was, but it was of course in August. But I mean, he ran a tremendous race on the grass leading up to that and to the Breeders' Cup. And then after he'd won the Breeders' Cup, of course, he never got the chance to get back to the dirt, but he could run on dirt or grass. And then, man, his back-to-back Breeders' Cup wins were incredible. If you look back at the horses that were in both of those races, I mean, they were the greatest milers of all time. Mm-hmm. I mean, the horse that finished second, third, fourth, and fifth. I mean, matter of fact, in one of the Breeders' Cup races, the horse that finished second or third, it was Forster All-Star, and he was a horse that I won the Irish 2000 Guineas on. You know, here's a horse that won the Irish 2000 Guineas, you know, as a 3-year-old, and I beat him with lure, you know, later on. That was pretty incredible. So this is a horse that beat the best in Europe at the time, and then they all come to Europe, and he still beats them no matter what lure does. And he was just an incredible horse, and he'll always go down as my first Breeders' Cup win, of course, and one of my all-time favorites.
We did this when I interviewed you for Breeders' Cup last year, but I'm going to read them out again. This is the list of jockeys who were beaten in Lieu's first Breeders' Cup mile behind Mike E. Smith. Pat Day, Mick Kinnan, Eddie Delahoussaye, Ray Cochran, Kent Desormeaux, Corey Nakatani, Freddie Head, Jerry Bailey, Patrick Valenzuela, Chris McCarron, Chris Antley, Chucky Lopez. That was the jockey lineup in that race. Some decent pilots there, Mike.
Pretty incredible. I mean, I would love to have, if I was a young man starting out as a rider, I would love to have any one of those guys' careers, you know, just to have their careers, without a doubt. Again, I've been extremely blessed, and I don't know how or why. It's sometimes because I've never truly, and this is the truth, I've never truly honestly believed that I was ever, not that I wasn't deserving of it, but that I was ever that good of a rider. I mean, there's so many guys that could have rode the horses that I rode and done just as good a job, and maybe even a better job, to be honest with you. But for some odd reason, I've been chosen, and I take it with such an honor and a humbleness, and to watch the riders that I've been blessed to ride with, especially back in the day. Oh my God, man. There's nothing like them. We just came from Saudi Arabia, and I turned the corner and I ran into Mick Kinnan. And let me tell you something. Mick Kinnan, to me, is one of the greatest human beings of all times, and just as much as a rider to me. I've always thought that there's very few people. Well, I shouldn't say very few. There's about 5 people in my life that meant a whole lot to me on and off the racetrack, and Mick Kinnan is one of them. And to see him the other day in Saudi Arabia was just incredible.
How long had it been since you'd seen each other or spoke?
When he retired. So when he rode Giants Causeway, I think that was the last time that I seen him. Since then, you know, when Tisnow and Chris McCarron beat him at Churchill, I don't think I had seen him since. And man, we turned the corner and we ran into each other. And let me tell you something. We couldn't hold each other. Man, we hugged each other and we literally stayed together. For some odd reason, me and him, we just love to be around each other. At least I love to be around him anyway. And we spent the whole night just hanging out, laughing, going over some old times and funny things that we've been blessed to be around. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
This is what's so great about horse racing and so different than other sports is, one, we get to still see the talents on display of Hall of Famers, whereas when other athletes are done playing is when they're usually inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that's one. But two, you have the unique situation of riding against all of these, your colleagues, but then having to go back to the same room. It's not as if you have 2 different locker rooms and you, after, say, you've won a race and somebody else has lost a race, what are you putting up? 11 minutes. We got to get to Graham.
No. Graham Motion said, send a sign that you're okay. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay. But it's got to be unique, Mike, in the sense that you ride against your friends every day, and then you go back to the same room after you beat them or you lose to them, and kind of have to manage the emotions of that too.
That's what I think makes us a little, I'm not going to use the word. When you're able to compete against each other and beat each other, you learn how to be so humble, so gracious, so happy. You learn how to be happy for other people when it wasn't your time. I mean, it's trying times when you do that. I mean, because when you think that you're the guy that's supposed to have won, and someone rides a race that's better than you, whatever, and he beats you, and then he's sitting right next to you, and 5 seconds later, man, you got to sit there and look at that guy. I mean, it's hard, man, sometimes. But I'm going to tell you what, it makes you a better person, a better human being. It makes you appreciate how great a horse is, and a horse can change everything, man. He's the one that does it all. And when you see the greats give all the accolades and all the good stuff to what a great horse that I rode, it's pretty neat, man. It's pretty cool to be able to come back in the same room. I mean, can you imagine at halftime coming back in a football game and you're tied, and you both got to sit there next to each other? That's pretty much the way it is in horse racing.
Well, you embody that spirit of camaraderie, and you've been a wonderful ambassador for the sport for 3 decades now, and I hope it can continue when we all resume as well. We are so fortunate that so many of you have been so generous. breederscup.com/donate. This series, Cocktails and Conversation, we are hoping to provide a wonderful hour-long diversion for you every week, and hope to put a smile on your face, but also to raise important money for the relief efforts for thoroughbred racing's backstretch workers and other industry stakeholders that are in need, and so crucial to our livelihoods and to our enjoyment of the sport as well. So thank you very much for your donations. We've not got long left, 3.5 minutes of this show left. We could go on all night talking to the great man.
We could.
But it's time for show and tell. We've seen Bella already. Can we get another look?
I know.
Sure,
bring on Bella.
There she is.
Where is that beautiful hound?
And wait, and Mikey, who's she named after?
Bella's named after Unique Bella.
Unique Bella was remarkable, and I don't feel like we ever really saw her best either.
No, she was
fantastic.
Another one that was amazing. Again, I've been so blessed to have ridden so many great horses. But yeah, we got her when I was riding Unique Bella. Of course, she's gray, and she's a pit bull. She's a Stafford pit, but she's probably me and my wife's best friend. Man, we love this dog, man. She's something.
Mike, Sarah says, "Hi, Uncle Mike. We miss you and love you, Aunt Cynthia and Bella."
That's my
cute.
That's my little niece. I'll show you a little show and tell real quick. I'm gonna leave my little room.
Mike, while you're walking to your trophy room, Graham Motion is dying to know what to order from Jeff Ruby's. We've completely looked over his question a million times. So, what do you order when you go to Jeff Ruby's?
Wow, every single thing that is on the menu, because I've had it more than once, and there's not one single thing that's not amazing. He's the cat daddy of all cat daddies.
He's the best dressed guy around. If you see him at the track,
I just love him. He's more than just a man that has an incredible restaurant and great staff that works with him, but he's just a great man himself. He really is. But anyway, let me take you inside here real quick.
I'll follow you.
And my wife
is a treat.
Of course, real quick.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is the Golden Whip that Arrogate was blessed to have won with Arrogate. Here are some of the trophies that come from all over the world, really, California and New York. And here's some of the beautiful rings that I've been blessed to have won. Triple Crown, the Pegasus, the Eddie O'Carroll ring, and there's also much stuff that's here. All my Makers Mark bottles are all in the back. Jack Van.
Yeah, wait, can you lift up yours? Where's yours?
Oh, mine's here. That's back here, and of course here's Holy Bull. He'll always be another cat daddy, all cat daddies. I got his hair right here at the bottom. It's a piece of his mane that I stole from him. That I'll always keep. That's a piece of me. And then you got Lure, you got the Zenyatta, Justify, American Pharoah, and Bob Baffert. And then you got Dwayne Lucas over here in the very back, who's the coach of all coaches.
Yeah.
then you got a lot of Breeders' Cups to go up here.
Wow.
What are the
Man.
ones that are more see-through than bronze? What are those? Are they crystal?
They're Lalique, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just when the Breeders' Cup changed
Yeah.
for a little bit, not necessarily for no reason. There's WinStar Colors, my second ESPY award, canoes.
Travers canoes.
Yeah, the canoes. Here's a great picture, which I haven't been blessed enough to hang up yet, that Bob and Jill got for me after we went down. I'll get that put up sometime soon, but I'm just kind of holding it right now. And then I got my favorite picture of all time. It's actually this one right here, which is Zenyatta winning the Classic. And then one of my most favorite items that I have in my house is this saddle, believe it or not, which is Lafitte Pincay's last race he rode on. When he went down that day and got hurt, this is a saddle he got hurt on and he went down on and he rode all the time. And I actually stole it. So they're going to find out real quick.
How did you go about stealing this?
From me? Well, I'm pretty smart. Yeah, I took it, and he knows I have it, but I've let him know that whenever he's ready to take it back, I'm going to give this to his kids or Lafitte Jr. or whoever wants it. But for now, it's staying in my house, man. It's not going to leave my house. I actually wrote it when I got it to a number that he wanted to get to. I think it was 10,000 wins, and I wrote it till I got to that number, and I retired it. I actually won my first Kentucky Derby with this saddle, so it means a lot to me as well. So pretty cool.
That's a fabulous story. And
that's really special. I had no idea.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. I reckon you should hang on to that.
Well, I got it, but I mean, it's his kids. Whichever one at some point is going to claim it, but for right now, it's still mine.
Brittany, can we see your trophy room?
Who's that? Oh, Britney. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, guys.
I don't have one.
And this is the 1983 Pony Club Gymkhana. So hope you enjoyed that. Mike, thank you so much. That was more than just a tour to the trophy room. That was just memories flooding through so many years of wonderful thoroughbreds and wonderful moments. You and Cynthia and Bella stay safe, and we look forward to being able to catch up very soon.
Well, thank you both for having me on, and man, it was such a blast. And may I give a little? I tell you, maybe if you could get a chance, man, one time, man, to have a guy like, I don't know, Angel Cordero, Jerry Bailey, and say Pat Day, man, all at once, man. When this show, can you imagine the stories you guys would get? It'd be amazing. I think sometimes, we forget about the generation the people that passed that brought us all to where we're at. Because I tell you, if it weren't for all these guys and so many wonderful trainers and people that helped me out, I would never be where I'm at. And then we forget about them sometimes, and it would be pretty cool to see those kind of guys. Some of the guys back in the past, man. I mean, I'm still hanging in there. I'm not done yet. So I'm one to have every now and then. But then if you could reach out to some of those guys and put them on your show, I think it'd be amazing.
I think Mikey, if you can help connect us, we can make it happen.
Oh, I got the numbers. Let me tell you something. They call me every day.
Great idea.
Your wishes are command, Mikey. Thank you so much for your time this week. Britt, see you again next week.
Love you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
We will. That was it. Cocktails and Conversation, round 2. We'll be right back next Thursday. Look after yourselves now.
God bless.